In this video, I'm going to do a quick review of graphing and slope. You should be familiar with this. So just follow along and do problems as you want to. Just pause the video. You might go through the entire thing and just kind of check how you did. So 3.1, graphing and slope. A graph represents a visualization of the solutions to an equation. So we are on page 31 in our workbook if you are in my class. So here's the quadrants. Just to review, we have quadrant 1 is the right upper right corner. We have quadrant 2 and quadrant 3. Quadrant 4 kind of goes does go counterclockwise. So make sure you always label your axes. Okay. This is called the coordinate plane or the Cartesian coordinate system. 0, 0 is always your origin. So here's just some notes to go along with that. The coordinate plane is divided into 4 quadrants. You can read through this. You've probably already read it in your book. The origin is where we have 0, 0. The x coordinate is the horizontal distance from the origin, and the y coordinate is the vertical distance from the origin. An ordered pair is where a point in the coordinate plane is located and denoted by xy. The quadrants are labeled in counterclockwise starting at the top, and we use Roman numerals for those typically. Page 32, we have example 3.1. Plot each ordered pair and identify the quadrant in which the ordered pair lies. So I'd like you to try this one for classwork and see how you do. So pause the video and check back. Okay, I'll plot a couple of points just to make sure you're on track, and then you can try a couple more if you were stuck. Maybe you want to need to see a little bit here. So we have -2, -5. I would hover at -2 and then go down to -5, and then that's where I have a hit, like as if I'm playing Battleship. And since this has a letter, we can call it A, but you do want to typically just write in the point that you're plotting. You can do that after if you're doing like whole line. 3, -3. Okay, so hopefully you get the idea with that. I'm just going to label it as B. If I were talking about the quadrants, I'm going to put that under here. So if you're confused how to write that, A would be in quadrants. Remember, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, around counterclockwise like that. So point A is in quadrant 3, so you can write it right under the point there. B is in quadrant 4. And so on and so forth. You could fill all those in. All right, so take a minute to check all your answers. I filled in the quadrants right here at the top. If it falls on an axis like E does, you would just say y-axis, and F falls on the x-axis, so we just write it like that for the quadrant. And just take a minute, pause the video, and check that your points all match up. Okay, this definition is reviewing where we have hit on a certain axis. So the x-intercept, for example, F is an x-intercept and E is a y-intercept. So the x-intercept is always when y equals 0. Y-intercept is when x equals 0. Okay, so let's take a look at graphing by plotting points or making a t-table, which I have right here on the left. I have an XY chart. Pick a number for x and find its corresponding y value. You could pick any number for x, but it makes sense if you have fractions, you want to pick something that's a multiple of the denominator. If you have, just small numbers to work with, pick something kind of small for x in there. You can pick 0 for x, that's always a good one, and figure out what the y intercept would be, because that's when x equals 0, we get the y-intercept. You can also just pick any values for y and find the corresponding x value. For example, one of the ones I'll do is putting in 0 for, I'm going to put it down lower, for y, and getting the x intercept. So we have a spot here to put our work. So let's try putting 0 in for x right here. So if we have y equals 3 times 0 minus 2, that's pretty easy math, but we would get -2. I just want to show you how I'm plugging in. And then I'm going to put that right over here. I'm going to fill in my whole chart before I start plotting points. Another point I might just want to pick would be, let's see, I'm going to keep my picks in pink. So I'll pick a 1. And then let's do the work for that. So y equals 3 times 1 minus 2 would give us 3 minus 2 is 1. So we have the point 1, 1. And then let's pick -2 and see where that takes us on our graph. X equals -2, then I would get y equals 3 times -2 minus 2 equals, so I'd have -6 minus 2 would be -8. Now let's also put 0 in for y and see what happens with that. So if we do that, we will get 0. Do the work for that one over here. 0 equals 3x minus 2. We have to just do a little bit of algebra here. 2 equals 3x, and I divide both sides by 3. I get 2/3 equals x. Okay, and then we can plot those. So why don't you pause the video and go ahead and plot. Okay, so I plotted the points over here on the graph that you see. One thing I want to point out too is the 2/3 0 right here. I just kind of judged where that sits. It's a fraction, so it's a little tricky to tell. And also the -2, 8. Again, I don't have a grid line anymore, so that's okay. And then I'm going to set my ruler on top here, which is making my thing go crazy. So I'm going to try to get this line in there as best I can using my tablet with the ruler on top of it. So it's going to not look as pretty as yours probably. And just put arrows on the end because we don't have a restriction on this domain, so we're just gonna keep it going. All right, so that's it for example A. The next one, B and C, let's see if you could try those as classworks. Just pause the video. Again, you should have done some graphing before. You should be coming in to this course having some experience. You may not be that used to it, but it shouldn't be new to you. If it is new to you, let me know right away. We'll have to work a little extra on some things. So this will be classwork, and this will be classwork. If you're stuck, remember if you have fractions, do multiples, and you can pick any x values, but I would start with maybe I would do like 0 somewhere in here and then like a negative and a positive, and I'd probably pick like a 4 or something, at least for one of them. Okay, and you can show your work over here. And this one works really well using what I call the intercept method, although you can pick any x or y values to do. The intercepts work really well, and then you could pick one other, just anything you want. I wouldn't necessarily pick a fraction probably or some huge number, but something that helps you get a good spread. You can put your work off to the side, but kind of track it. As soon as you do the work for one, pop it right in the table so you don't lose track. We always want to pick 3 points is good. You have to have at least 2. If you keep getting 0, 0, like if this works out to be 0, 0, you have to then pick something else. So that's why we always say try to do 3 because you want to have a good spread. So go ahead and pause and try those. Okay, so here's the graph for the first one. I plotted my points. I label at least 2, connect your dots, and then put arrows on the end. And you can see here where y equals 1/4 x minus 3, I have a slope of up 1 over 4, up 1 over 4, up 1 over 4. So you could use that method of graphing. We'll look at that a little bit later, but usually we plot the y-intercept and then use our slope as a tool. Up 1 over 4 would be our process, and then connect. You have to have at least 2 or 3 points, usually 3. Again, I just picked the values, popped them in, and solved. So you can see my work there. So hopefully yours matches up. Watch out with your negative signs. Sometimes that gets people upside down and backwards. Let me know if you have any questions on these. You can just send me a quick email. We can do Zoom appointments by email. We'll just pick a time. So we're not totally giving up on Zoom just for now because it's too hectic for me to do it at my house. Once I'm back in my office, I can set a regular office hour. So for this one here, C, x minus y equals -3. You can pick the 0 for x and get your y-intercept, 0 for y, get your x-intercept. Again, really watch this negative sign here. So when we have 0 minus y equals -3, then we're going to get actually what we're doing is dividing by -1 on both sides, right? That goes away, but don't forget that negative is there, so we get y equals 3. So we're just changing each sign to opposite. This one, x minus 0, just that goes away, and we get x equals -3 on that one. I should have a negative here. And then 5 minus y equals -3. I'm subtracting 5 from both sides. Again, don't forget to bring this negative down here, so it ends up -y equals -8 there. Y equals 8. And lastly, I just did one more point for good measure, and then I plotted all the points, connected the dots. Mine's a little wiggly. I did use a straight edge, but it's just hard on a tablet. And then plotted a couple of points. So that is it for this part of the workbook, section 3.1. Your workbook splits this section up into 3 different parts. So we'll do 3 different videos. I'm trying to put them in a playlist now for you. So make sure you get all of the videos that match up through the whole workbook, whether we do them as examples or classwork. You're going to have that mostly filled in unless I totally put a big X and say don't do it. So have a great day.